Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another episode of our preview series, the show in which we look ahead to the next Arsenal fixture. And in this case, it is, yes, indeed, we do actually have a fixture to look to. It's Brentford's away. Now, you may be wondering why I'm doing this really far ahead of time. The reason for that is actually we were scheduled to do the preview show today for the PSV game. And of course, we'd organise a time and guests and all of that stuff. And I didn't want to muck anyone about. So I thought, we'll just do the preview show for the Brentford game now, because it looked like that game wasn't going to happen, at the PSV game was going to happen, but actually it's now gone the other way around. But I hope you appreciate it. Do drop a like on the video. Do subscribe to the channel if you're new around here, with those notifications still turned on so you never miss a show. Let me introduce to you our members from the Discord server that are going to be joining us for today. First of all, it's Jared. How you doing, mate? You good? You well?
Hey, doing pretty good. I'm off work this afternoon. Spurs just lost in the Champions League, and I'm back on the Gooner Talk, so things are all good.
It is, yes. It's weird. I can finally talk about current stuff. As I was just saying to you guys off air, I just spent the last 2 hours doing pre-recorded content for the honeymoon series, which is weird because you're talking as if things have happened and things that haven't happened is weird. But I can actually talk about the fact that, yes, Spurs have lost. It's great. It's wonderful. I've been saying for quite some time, Jared, that this Spurs team don't look great, but they keep picking up results. And it seems that Sporting finally gave them one.
Yeah, I'm glad to see him finally take a loss, but you're right. And it seems like the past couple of years, that's been the case with them. And it's frustrating because they seem to be the team that gathers a point or two when it doesn't look like they're going to. And come the end of the year, those are the valuable ones that keep putting them ahead of us in the table. So it's nice to see him finally take a loss, even if it is in the Champions League.
It is, yeah. Well, hopefully Marseille can do the business when they do the return leg and when Alexis Sanchez is back fit, because not back fit, but not suspended. I think he was suspended for the first leg. So fingers crossed they can do the job. And I mean, I look at that group. It's Marseille, Sporting, and who's the other team? Do we know who the other team is in that group? Off the top of my head, I'm struggling. I'm sure the chat box is now going absolutely mental. I'm trying to
everybody involved except you and I know the answer to that question.
Eintracht Frankfurt is the other team. Okay. Well, I don't think are doing that well in the Bundesliga, but hopefully maybe a result can be picked up at some point between the two. Let's introduce you our second guest making up our trio for today. It's Luke. How you doing, Luke? You good?
I'm good. Evening all.
Good stuff. Evening. Good to have you clear and crisp, and we can hear you, and there's no internet issues because we've got a laptop working, which is fantastic. But yeah, it's nice seeing Spurs lose, isn't it?
It's certainly poked up my spirits, yeah, especially with the news about Partey potentially being back as well.
Yeah. It's like London buses. Good news for Arsenal fans this year. It's two come along at once. But yeah, let's talk about Brentford. I mean, let's talk about how we've kind of got to this scenario. Now, as I said to Mike when we did a bit of a pre-record the other day ahead of the Brentford game, you can go into as much detail and be as vague or as in-depth as you like about this. But the postponements of the weekend, Jared, obviously were a frustration to a lot of Arsenal fans. I wrote a piece on FL about this, saying that I really think it was a bit of a missed opportunity from the Premier League to give an opportunity for fans to pay tribute, in a sense, and to just have their weekend, in a sense, and have sport. And now we're finding that obviously the PSV game's affected. Now, the reason for that is more to do with policing, specifically, it seems. And so there's logistics as to why. With that said, there's been a lot of people suggesting, well, if they knew this was kind of happening on Friday, Saturday, that maybe they could have organised a flip of the fixtures, because there's no danger of people missing out on money in the same sense, because the game's been cancelled. So people have missed out on money anyway. But how have you kind of viewed the fiasco of the postponed and reinstated fixtures, if you like?
It's been hard to kind of gauge what I thought was going to happen. It seemed like things were changing day to day. I read your article. I thought it was brilliant. I kind of agree. And obviously, I'm not from the UK, so I probably don't have the same feelings towards what happened as everybody else, or it doesn't hit as close to home. But just in general, sports has a unique way of bringing people together. And I was kind of in your same state of mind, that I thought it would have been a great opportunity for people to get together, have a little camaraderie. I'm sure there would have been a bunch of nice tributes over the weekend, and it would have been great. It didn't go on, and now we're to this week where no game Thursday, game Sunday. Chelsea's kind of the inverse of that. So it's really all over the place, and I'm glad to see Arsenal back. I'm looking forward to the game, and it fell nicely in that I wanted us to get another game in with the regular 11 before we played the North London Derby, because that's going to be a especially important game this year. So I'm glad we're going to get one in this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. The idea and the prospect of having that game against Spurs as our next one after we obviously lost our last Premier League game against Man United would have been a frustrating one that we weren't able to build up that momentum. I mean, Luke, the fact that we had Everton at the weekend and then obviously the PSV game was scheduled to go ahead, 2 home fixtures, it would have been great to obviously build up that kind of momentum going into Spurs. The Brentford game is different, but just before we go on to that in specifics, what were kind of your thoughts and feelings around the postponement fiasco, if you will?
Very disappointed, not just from a personal point of view, because I was meant to go to that game, the Everton one, but
yeah,
I just think that they didn't really think about also all the like as you said in your piece, about all the people coming from overseas. There was no obviously policing issue, so those games could have gone ahead. And then obviously there are going to be policing issues this weekend, which we will understand. So I just think it was a bit sad that they made that decision, because then we've now got 2 fixtures to reschedule, and that's going to be difficult.
Yeah, I mean, you think about October's already got 9 games in it. November's got 3 in the space of 12 days before, of course, the players break for the World Cup. Next year, when we get round to kind of rearranging the Everton game, which will happen next year now, because there's no other place to put it this year, that's for sure. It is going to generate some difficulties. The PSV game being rescheduled could move out either one of the Brighton or Man City games. My guess would be the City game, because it's, a Carabao Cup third round game is not easy to reschedule for a year's time, because it's the third round of a competition, whereas a league game is easier. But that said, if there's one team that is going to be difficult to rearrange a fixture with, it's Man City, because they get so far in all of the other competitions that their midweeks are also really filled up very, very quickly. So yeah, what ends up happening is going to be intriguing, to say the least. Let's move and keep our focus on Brentford. It's a strange fixture for us, Jared, because we've not won this specific fixture. We obviously went to Brentford last season away and lost. We obviously avenged that in the home run, but we haven't got experience of winning in Brentford's stadium. It was a very different time back then, and you fast forward to where we are just over a year later, and Arsenal are in a very, very different position than they were, and have very different players that played, of course, in that game as well. What do you think will happen? I know that's a really broad question, but it's kind of where I want to lead the conversation.
No, I like our chances, and we had such a poor experience there last year. I know that probably motivated us the next time around against them at home, but we have a lot of the same players on the squad. They should kind of carry that with them and know that it's not a gimme game. While they're a team that's not typically up at the top of the league, they're no slouches, and they're a difficult game, and they're playing relatively well. Ivan Toney's on a good run. We know he loves a good kickabout against Arsenal, so it'll be interesting to see what we do with him on the weekend. But if the team's healthy, I think this is one based on form this season that I expect us to go in and get the job done and come away with 3 points.
Yeah, I mean, do you feel the same way, Luke? Brentford have had an interesting season. I think they're the 3rd highest scorers in the league at home, behind Liverpool and Man City. 4 of those goals came against Man United, as we know, and I think 5 of them came against Leeds. So that's 9 in 2 games. Not as good as Liverpool, who can score 1 in 1 game, but 9 in 1 game rather. But they are a team that can score. They've got a potent striker in Ivan Toney. Are you fearful of kind of their attacking threat, especially after considering how we were kind of opened up a bit away at Old Trafford?
I am, to the point of, I think we can handle them, but I think pretty much all our goals that we've conceded have all been our own fault. I don't think anyone's really outplayed us. I don't think anyone's really kind of scored an absolute worldie against us. So
yeah, as
long as we can defend as a team, no more lapses of concentration, then I think we should be okay.
How do you solve that problem? I know it sounds really a simple question, but you're right in the sense that the goals we've conceded, you can pinpoint why we have. And when you say like a worldie, I don't think we're necessarily talking about 30-yard screamers. We're talking about well-worked goals that break down the spaces and, good pieces of interplay. And, the goals that we've scored this season, well-worked pieces of play. The goals that we've conceded, as you say, have come from individual errors. How does Arteta, do you think, go about tackling, kind of mitigating those problems?
Well, he can only get them on the training pitch and sort of repetition, almost like what George Graham did back in the day. But we've seen this before, haven't we? Sometimes you see these patterns and they can last the whole season. So it's really important that we can try and nip this in the bud. Because when we play against Man City and Liverpool, we can't be giving away goals to them because they won't let us back in.
And I think when we come up against a side like Brentford that have so much, attacking threat, it's hard to see potentially maybe them not getting a goal with how kind of caution to the wind, I suppose, is a way that they sometimes play, especially at home behind their crowds. And there's an expectation at home for Brentford that they will, take the game to the opposition. And we've seen that obviously go for them in games like Man United and Leeds, and go against them as well. And they've conceded some goals off the back of being potentially too offensive. Do you think that is where we will find the spaces, Jared? Or do you see us being more dominant in this game still and kind of taking the game to them and controlling the fixture?
Even away from home, I expect this is one that we're going to go out and try and dominate possession, dominate the game from the opening kick. I think, like we saw in the first few games of the season, not so much against Manchester United, but in those first few where we really came out aggressive and pushed teams back and didn't even let them get out to try their attack. That can bite you when teams beat you over the top, as United did. But we saw it in the first handful of games. It can be quite effective. And they're a team that I think will be able to do that too with some good effect. And I think that would be the catalyst for us this game would be if that press is effective the first 20, 25 minutes and we convert one of those opportunities we create early. That's been a problem for us this season. We've created a number of good looks in the first 15, 20 minutes and haven't come away with a lot of goals from that. So if we start to remedy that situation and put one in the back of the net early, I think it's going to carry forward and it's going to be one that we go on to win, 2-0, 3-0, that sort of scoreline.
Yeah, absolutely. There are obviously areas of that team there's some narrative, around it. Two players in particular, Luke. One is Ivan Toney, who has his links to Arsenal. We've seen Arsenal link with him in the past. We've seen him rather controversially describe his current club in some unfortunate social media videos. And then the other player is Aaron Hickey, who, if you remember, was linked to Arsenal rather considerably at the start of the window. All the work that went into those tactical breakdowns clearly went to good use for Brentford supporters. But that's an interesting one as well. And he's been playing, ironically, at right back because, Rico Henry's been playing at left back for them. So he's going to be going up against Martinelli. And you would think the other key battle that we've mentioned for Toney is going to be probably Saliba and Gabriel dealing with them. So in terms of those two, how do you kind of see and feel about Arsenal having to deal with those two players?
I fancy Martinelli against Hickey. And I've seen him play for Scotland at right back. And I don't think, perhaps it was just he had a bad game, but and he was up against Mudryk, wasn't he? So I think Martinelli probably fancies his chances against most right backs. Do
you want to go and sort that?
Yeah.
You can go and that's fine. I could just hear it in the background. No worries. No worries, mate. Follow on, Jared, from what Father Luke was saying there. We've all been there. I haven't yet, but I know that a lot of people listening certainly have. But yeah, go on, mate.
Yeah, I haven't been there yet either, and happily so, I think, right now. But I'm kind of with him. I think Hickey's a good player. Do I think he's going to be a problem for Gabriel Martinelli, who's extremely on form right now? No, I think Martinelli's going to come out and do what he does every game. It's just high intensity, high pressure, high work rate, and he's going to create some opportunities for himself and hopefully some of the other boys. Yeah. As far as Toney in the middle, like he said, we've kind of caused a lot of our own issues at the back. It hasn't necessarily come from the opposition forwards. So the hope is the more games those guys get in together, that sort of just naturally gets tightened up as you understand the spaces those other guys are going to take up. And, Saliba gave up one own goal. Gabriel, just the loose touch against Mitrovic. Those aren't things that I think are a systemic issue as much as, just that they're just one-off plays that, happen in a high-paced game of football. Like you see in the Premier League, you have so little margin for error and so little time to make those decisions that they're going to happen from time to time, especially to younger players. But, if we avoid those sort of mental mistakes and just take care of what we need to take care of, as Luke mentioned earlier, I'm not worried about teams breaking us down. Certainly a team like Brentford with, quick interplay and things like that, we seem to position ourselves pretty well and be prepared for that sort of stuff. So if we can stay out of our own way at the back, I don't think it's a game that's going to give us a huge problem.
Absolutely. I realise I've been a bit ignorant of the chat box, so apologies for that, guys. We're going to be tackling some of your comments and questions as we go throughout, especially when I feel bad when people leave these really kind comments and I haven't gone back and checked them. But thank you. Someone called Jared Carver as well in the chat box there as well. Pulling the matrix. Luke, are we all settled? We sorted it okay? Are we all good? Yeah. Go on, finish what you were saying kind of about Hickey and Toney, of course, and how we're going to deal with it.
Yeah, because I think Aaron Hickey's, he's obviously very young. So I think Martinelli will be licking his lips at that, especially as he's kind of playing out of position. I know people said he's someone that can play both left back and right back, but from what I've seen from him, I think he's much better at left back. So, and obviously Saka as well. I'm hoping I think he was starting to have a really good game in that second half against United. I think he came on against Zurich and looks much better than he had in the previous games. So yeah, I think hopefully he'll play his best game so far.
And of course, I mean, Tony, physical, tall striker, something that Arsenal have struggled with in the past. But when you look at Saliba and Gabriel as a pairing, they give you a lot more confidence about dealing with more tall, physical strikers.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, the Mitrovic goal wasn't because he outmuscled one of our defenders. It was because we gave him a goal. He finished it well, fair enough. But when you give someone a free shot, a goal, there's probably a good chance they're going to score at this level. So if we can not do that to Ivan Toney, because he doesn't need us to give him chances, he might get one, but I'm confident we can nullify most of their attack, especially if we've got most of the ball.
Yeah, indeed. And I think it's about how we've controlled games that's kind of suffocated other sides in opposition matches. I mean, you think about the Bournemouth game, how we just completely controlled that. Bournemouth have scored goals against teams this season. They've picked up some wins. I mean, obviously that really kind of interesting win over Nottingham Forest in the end, not so long ago, showed that they can score goals, that they've got quality, and we just suffocated the possession out of them, and we weren't threatened at all. Let's move on to our lineups. Chat box, this is your time to start reacting to how you feel about the guys' teams. Jared, we start with yours. Talk us through your selection and your choice of star man prediction as well.
So I went with what I feel like is our best 11 in general. That's the team I want to see every time out if everybody's healthy and we don't have, a fixture can, of course, going to rear its ugly head here shortly, but as of right now, everybody's rested. If everybody's healthy, I want to see the best 11. And I think this is it. I do have Partey going back in immediately. That's probably the one that would raise the most question or concern. I know he has a history of injuries here, but I've seen some comments that he was back in training as early as last week and is now back in full training. And it's Tuesday. So we've got a lot of time until the game. And if he's ready to go, I want to see him out there. My concern with resting him would be that we hold him out when really he probably could play, looking ahead to Spurs, and then we don't come away with 3 points at Brentford. Now, even if you win at Spurs, you're kind of setting yourself back. As big a game as the North London Derby is for us as fans, and we all look forward to it, each game's 3 points. So you can't kind of put this one on the back burner to look forward to that one in terms of putting your best team out. So assuming he's healthy and ready to go, I want to see him out there and us, dominating the way we did the first few games with him.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, Odegaard is just so crucial to this Arsenal team. His influence, his creativity, his leadership, as captain is crucial. And I think that we've seen him develop, I think, more as a captain, as a leader in this team. He is vocal. If you've ever been to the Emirates or you've been to an away game this season or just while Odegaard's been here, he is genuinely so vocal on that field. It's a great example when you go and watch back the West Ham 3-3 from a couple of seasons ago. I think there's a bench cam, not a bench cam, but what did they call it? It was something where they on the Arsenal YouTube channel that they followed the player individually. But there was a really good kind of watch of was it mic'd up or something like that, where they kind of you could hear the
coach's cam or sideline cam. I don't remember, but I know what you're talking about. I remember the video.
Odegaard was just excellent at kind of getting what he wanted from from his other teammates and demanding so much more as well. And now he's obviously the captain and has to do that. Player cam, GD seems to think that it might be. So I hope that potentially it was that. Anthony recognised that, yes, I did forget to change the logos, but I have sorted that very quickly, pivoted. Let's go to Luke's team. A couple of changes to what Jared's gone for. Talk us through your team.
Yeah, so Tierney, I think he is a better defender than Zinchenko, and I think he is learning that inverted role that Arteta wants him to do. That obviously Zinchenko's better at that in a minute, but I think Tierney's only going to do that by playing. I went for Saliba and White just because with Gabriel, I think he just made a couple of mistakes, too many, that have sometimes led to direct goals. And I think perhaps just get him out of the team for this one, and he'll be able to win his place back soon. But I want to see Saliba and White. So I put Tommy Arce in there because I didn't feel as if White should be dropped. and I wanted to see this partnership as well. And the rest, is what most people would probably.
And Tierney over Zinchenko as well.
Yeah, Tierney over Zinchenko. Yeah, I just think he's. Yeah, I've seen Zinchenko being caught out or positioned a couple of times, and I think Tierney and Tomiyasu were our first choice fullbacks last season. So yeah, I've gone back to them for this game.
No, that's fair. I think that Tierney in particular is interesting because Brentford, if they are going to hurt us, it's going to be on the counter, and you'd think that Zinchenko will be targeted in behind for that position. So if Tierney's there, potentially there is certainly more scope. You went for Saka as your star man. He's had a little bit of a tricky start to the season, but you think this could be a game? I know he scored against Man United, of course, but is this going to be the game where he really comes to life after that goal, giving him a bit of a confidence boost?
Well, I think so, yeah, because whenever a player scores, their level can raise quite a lot, can't it? So, and he got that goal against United. He then came on against Zurich, and I thought he looked pretty good there. So yeah, I'm thinking he's going to be back to his best for this game. Hopefully, he'll get a goal. And but my main worry is that he then goes off to England and he comes back injured for the Tottenham game or something. So
yeah,
if I'm Arteta, I'm tapping on all their shoulders and doing what Ferguson used to do to Giggs and say, right, just say you're injured.
Yeah, it's Giggs for Wales, Saka for England. It's tricky, but none of the Brazilians are going, which is, I suppose, a positive from the sounds of things. I was listening to the Arsenal Vision pod and Tim Stillman explaining kind of the reasons as to why Jesus seems like his place is safe, and they're just kind of picking between some forwards. Martinelli's the one that looks to be the most at risk, with Gabriel the likely fourth choice centre back. So it seems as though that they're not going on this break. However, he did make a really good point that actually, if we're an Arsenal fan, we probably want Martinelli to go to the World Cup because you don't want him disappointed that he wasn't picked, and that mental side of not being selected for the World Cup squad could be more damaging than actually going there from a fitness point of view. So some really good points actually by Tim. Go check out the last I think it's the mailbag episode of the last Arsenal Vision pod, so go and check it out. My team, very similar to both of the guys. The only changes I've gone for is Zinchenko instead of Tierney. I have also gone for Saliba and White at centre-back. I really want to see this happen. I'm really intrigued about White and Saliba as a pairing. There's been so much kind of debate and discussion around whether White or Saliba will have a future at Arsenal, but actually I'm kind of intrigued about how White and Saliba might play as a pairing. Saliba has played on the left. He's done it for Saint-Etienne. He's done it for Nice. He's done it very briefly for Marseille as well. He's comfortable on that side. And I think, Tomiyasu had a really good game against Zurich. I watched it back again the other day because I don't think it's funny when you're doing like a live blog and you're writing, kind of commentary, it's difficult to really kind of get your head in the game at the same time. So I watched it back and watched Tomiyasu in particular, and he really impressed me with some of the stuff he was doing. Some of the passes that he made, spreading the play, progressing the play, was excellent. So potentially we've missed some of his play on the right-hand side while White's been there. Whilst White, I think, has defensively been excellent, Tomiyasu indeed, I think, is helpful. And I mean, Gooner David says Saka has missed having Tomiyasu potentially behind him as well. So that's key. I've gone for Jesus because I'm boring. He's just a brilliant player. And I think we'll start once again in this game. But it's going to be intriguing, of course, what happens. Let's see what some of you guys have said regarding our lineups. Owen says, love the changes we can make in the back four without huge differences. Shows how much stronger we are this season compared to the last. Amira says, love both White and Tommy at right back, but Tommy supports Saka more than White does while still being defensively solid. Paul says, never change your back four unless injury or a loss of form. I like Jared's team. Norma also says that they're liking Jared's team as well. And Socks Guy's giving ratings. Jared 8 out of 10, Socks Guy 9 out of 10, and rather embarrassingly, I've got the most there with 9.5 out of 10. Temi says Luke's team is the best. I imagine that's what you meant to say. Luke's team is the best. But you can also like the video if you would be so kind as well. Ace says, what about a player as Cam? I think, all of us are expecting Martin Odegaard to play in that position. But who knows? Fabio Vieira may get a cameo at some point during the game. Let's go to predictions. Chat box, it's your time to go mad and get those predictions in. Scoreline and scorers. Jared, I'll start with you.
So I'm going to take 2-0 to Arsenal, with Martinelli and my man of the match, Martin Odegaard, getting the goals.
Lovely stuff. Luke?
I'm going to go. So Partey coming back has. I was going to go 2-1, but I'm going to join Jared in saying 2-0. But I'm going to go with Saka, both goals.
Lovely stuff. I think I said, what did I say? I can't remember what it was. I did a show the other day and I'm trying to be consistent. I think I might have said 2-0 Arsenal as well. Jesus with both. I might have said 3-0. I'm going to say 2-0 now and stick with that. But yeah, 2-0 Arsenal. Jesus with 2. And fingers crossed we can come out with a big 3 points. Nav R, who was a pleasure to meet, by the way, at our live show in London the other day, goes for 2-1. Schrodinger's Cat Flap going for 2-2. I know quite a few people have actually said 2-2 as a score draw in this one. Patrick says Fabio, though, instead of Xhaka in this game, an interesting potential choice. Also going, as I said, a lot of people going for 2-2 in this one. Rancy Pumpkin says Arsenal 2-1, Jesus and Odegaard to win. Temi very ambitious with a 12-0 victory, not conservative at all. Philippus says Arsenal will win 2-0. Gooner David going for a 1-0 to the Arsenal. DMC going for a 3-0 Arsenal win. Patrick going for a smashing 5-1 Arsenal victory. Sam Lowe says 2-1 Xhaka screamer and Saliba with a header from a corner. Sam Ashby says 3-1 Jesus hat-trick. That would be fantastic to see. Paul says 2-1 because we don't put away chances enough. It's a fair point. Owen says 3-1 Martinelli, Saka, Jesus and Tony with Brentford's sole goal. Wesley goes 1-0. Anthony says 3-1. And another fellow Jared says 3-1 Saka, Partey and Zinni to get the goals. I'll keep throwing up some more of your predictions as we round off the show. Jared, thank you so much for your time. We're going to call you Jared A with Jared B in the chat box. But thank you for your time. Tell people they can find you, mate, and what you're going to be up to.
Yeah, thanks for having me back again. You can find me on the Gooners Pod always on Twitter. It's at JC_AFC. And I appreciate you having me back. Don't kill yourself pre-recording content before the honeymoon. And I hope you enjoy yourself on the trip.
Yes, we're 6 pre-records down. We've got a few more to go, some good ones planned. I can actually give you some hints as to guests now because we've done. So people that we're going to be coming on, we've got a show with Dan Potts talking kind of about how do we overcome the doubts around Arteta from specifically people that have, like Dan, quite a lot of doubts about Arteta. Got a show with Arsblog talking specifically about kind of what is the end game of this Arteta project and how do we get there. A show with Mike, Andy, Drew and John that's going to be coming out the morning I leave and on the day of the Brentford game, or the evening I leave, so the morning in Mauritius time, so on Sunday morning, which is kind of a season review so far and looking ahead, of course, to the Brentford game. We've got a show with Ben from the Marseille View, which is a loan update show looking at not just Nuno Tavares, but Nicolas Pepe and Folarin Balogun. We've also got insight from Dylan, who's a Blackpool fan who's going to be covering Charlie Patino this season. And, of course, from the Rotherham United podcast, who are going to be covering Brook Norton-Cuffy, and then a more general look at the rest of the players that are on loan. And then we've got a couple of other shows, one with Sophie and Kev from the Highbury Squad, talking all about the evolution of Arsenal's atmosphere and how the fans' views kind of changed in the last 2 years and just how great it is to kind of go to games now. And then the other show is with Amanda from Same Old Arsenal and Albert from Albert J TV, talking a lot about the evolution of Arteta from where he started to where he is now. Yes, all of that's all been ready and pre-recorded. We've got some more shows in the pipeline. Hopefully going to get some with Harry and Clive also ready and sorted for you. So there's plenty to come whilst I am away. These will go out at 8 a.m. so you won't lose your morning show. That'll still be there. So there you go. Luke, thank you for your time, my friend. Much appreciate it. Tell people where they can find you if you would like, of course. If you don't, you can tell them you can find them in the Discord server.
Yeah, that's the only place you can find me is the Discord server. So if you want to join that, you can find me in there.
Lovely stuff. Luke is one of our regular commentators in there, as is Jared, of course, when he has the time. So do get involved. Link to the link tree is down below. And if you click that, it'll take you onto a page to sign up to join the membership. And then, of course, the Discord server along with that. Thank you, Chatbox. Much appreciate this time. Apparently, Ajax have equalised. I'm not going to go too much into what's going on because it'll be out of date by the time some people watch this. But thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow morning live bright and early at 8 a.m. as always, keeping you up to date with all things Arsenal. We've got a Spurs loss to talk about, though. That's not going to go out of date anytime soon. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. And as always, up the Arsenal.